Welcome back, everybody. In this video, our focus is going to be lesson number 36. And in lesson number 36, we have quite a few things that we need to go over. So initially, you can tell right off the bat, you are not playing quarter notes. Those are what are called eighth notes. Eighth notes are just a subdivision of quarter notes. So when you have a single quarter note and you cut it into two equal parts, you now have two eighth notes. Those two eighth notes is the same, those two eighth notes are the same duration as one quarter note. So let me show you what that looks like, what it sounds like on the guitar. So I'm going to count quarter notes and play quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are quarter notes. 2, 3, 4. When I play eighth notes, I'm not changing the tempo. I'm not getting faster. I am simply playing more often at the same tempo. So now we have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Again, I'm not playing faster. Get that out of your head. You're just playing twice as often. I'm not changing the tempo, and that's why I'm stressing this. You're not playing faster. You're not making the tempo faster. I'll show you again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Stop. Notice my counts were consistently the same. Dun, dun. Throughout. Half the time I played on the counts. The other half I played on the counts and in between the counts. But I was not speeding up. I was simply playing twice as many notes. So there's your eighth notes explanation. You can see eighth notes written in as pairs, the way you see them here in the music. You can also see them written in groups of 4, sometimes in groups of 3, sometimes as a single eighth note, in which case it'll be a quarter note. It'll look like a quarter note with a little flag at the end. I'll have a visual so you can see what I'm talking about. So those are your eighth notes. Now, if we go to the end of the lesson, we have another new note value, and that is the note value of a half note. The last note that you're playing is C. You're playing that with your middle finger here, by the way. A half note is 2 counts. So when you play the C, when you count 1 and 2, you're making sure that the note rings. But when you finish the counts in the measure, 3 and 4, you have to make sure you stop the count because a half note is only 2 counts. So after those two counts, you have to stop. The other 2 counts that are so far unaccounted for in the way I'm explaining it are going to be the responsibility of that half rest. And that is that little square at the end. That square at the end is a half rest. And a half rest receives 2 counts, just like a half note receives 2 counts. So you have 2 counts of the half note and then 2 counts of the half rest, and those together are going to equal the 4 counts within the measure. So yeah, that is it. So you have your eighth notes, which are a subdivision of your quarter notes. You have a half note, which is 2 counts, twice as long as a quarter note. You can also say half as long as a whole note, right? Because a whole note is 4 counts. Half note is 2 counts. Actually, in a way, the half notes are a subdivision of your whole note. Whole note's 4 counts. Cut that in half, you now have 2 half notes. And then we have the half rest at the end. 2 counts of silence. 3, 4. You're not done. Make sure you count those 2 counts of silence. And then you're done. All right? So when you play that last measure, it's not just 1, 2, all right, I'm done. Well, where did the other 2 counts go, right? So you have to make sure you account for all 4 of those counts, even though the last 2 are rests or silence. And that's it. So again, eighth notes, and half rests. Those are our new note values. And then other than that, I want to go over with you, I want to remind you of your string crossings. You should be able to identify where they are. There's quite a few of them, so watch out for those. Practice them. Make sure you don't fumble through them when you play through the lesson. And then on measure 5, or the transition from measure 5 to measure 6 might confuse some of you. In measure 5, you're playing eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. The very next measure, you're playing quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. A lot of times when I have students run through this lesson, they forget, and so they'll play measure 6 in the same rhythmic. They will play measure 6 rhythmically incorrect. They'll continue to play eighth notes, the rhythm of eighth notes, the note value of eighth notes. Hopefully that makes sense. They'll just plow through the rest of it, and they'll play the whole lesson as eighth notes, which is incorrect. And it's really important that you understand this so that you can hear the difference between the quarter notes and the eighth notes. The eighth notes and the, well, I guess it doesn't matter, right? So I'm going to play measure 5 as third string open, and then I'm going to play measure 6 as third string open. But I'm only going to be playing the note values, obviously not the correct notes, so you can hear it. So measure 5 and 6. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. Now with the notes, 1, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so on and so forth. And then at the end, by the way, the last note, you're going to actually play that with your pinky. So, because the note before that, you're playing G, which is your third finger. So it's more efficient to just use your pinky to play C, as opposed to this. And I've gone over that. I actually went over this same exact thing when the fourth finger was introduced in a previous lesson. So run through the lesson, practice it. Here's your tempo that we will be playing at. And if you're not ready, pause the video, practice it, come back. Oops. 1 and 2 and so on and so forth, okay? Last thing, there's one more thing. You're gonna start this lesson with your middle finger. Just be mindful of that. It's just to avoid some string crossings from the get-go. But you're still gonna come across a bunch of them anyways. Just make sure that you play the first note with your middle finger and then alternate from there. So here we go. Let's play through lesson number 36 at that tempo. And let's keep in mind that when we are playing our bass strings, you are turning your hand ever so slightly to avoid that. And then as we move up to the treble strings, we can transition to your normal hand position. Hopefully you saw that change in hand position. So we're here. Okay, keep that in the back of your head as you play through the lesson. On my count, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, rest, rest, stop. Don't forget about those rest. Half notes only 2 counts. So 1, 2. The last 2 counts are a half rest. 3, 4, and then you're done. And that concludes lesson number 36. I will see you all in lesson number 37.